how do we ensure that that is captured and done? That's the question that we are putting so that we have a better answer. Then you also emphasize so much under paragraph 3 of this presentation about how you support Red Cross in areas of security nature. I request to know whether there are moments you have also put request to Red Cross to give you support. Because now you go in, if Red Cross, my understanding is, if Red Cross gets to Adjumani to manage disaster issues and their issues of, security in nature, UPDF comes in. It means that there's a gap that Red Cross cannot do. But there are other moments that you yourself, you ask for Red Cross to help you. And how do you ask Red Cross? Do you just write to them? And do you sign a memorandum of understanding? Because we always see them working. But how do they come? Is it that for them they just go and they do their things, no one looks at it, no one requests, so long as they have heard about it? So we need a better understanding in relation to that. Honorable Smeo wants to raise something. Let's receive that, then you will come on board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister and your team, thanks a lot for the presentation. I'm Smeo Mwanga Subuga, representing the people of Kasanda South, in Kasanda District, and a member of this committee. Sorry, I came in late, but I wish to appreciate that you have appeared before this committee and your technical team. As a senior member of government and a lawyer for that matter, I'm convinced that whatever you are presented and the explanation you are going to give us is going to help this committee to reach at a good conclusion as far as this bill is concerned. There are 3 areas where I need some comment from you. One, when you look at Red Cross, the services provided by the Red Cross cut across different government ministries and departments. For example, the Ministry of RSA, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Defense, which you are heading, OPM, etc. If by this act or this bill we are looking at, if we are to put up, for example, say a coordination office for Uganda Red Cross, where Red Cross will be coordinating with government, in your view, this office should be in which ministry? I wanted to hear that one from you. Secondly, another issue which has been coming up ever since we started analyzing this bill and the interaction we have had with different government agencies and ministries, the issue of tax exemption. You are aware that Uganda Red Cross, like other humanitarian agencies in this country, they have tax exemption on humanitarian goods which are coming in the country. But on a number of occasions, some officials within the Uganda Red Cross Society have abused this exemption to the extent that they have gone ahead to declare personal property or personal goods as humanitarian goods. And if you have been following keenly, you are aware that even the Secretary General or the former Secretary General was removed from office and was taken to court because of this. So look at section, I think it's section 11 of this bill. For you as a lawyer, what guidance can you give us if we are to prevent this? So that this tax exemption by Uganda Red Cross Society is not abused by the officials of the Red Cross. And then lastly, for example, if you look at section 10 in the bill, you can see it very clearly that Uganda Red Cross will be getting funds from government. And they have been getting funds from government before. So what advice can you give this committee? How can these funds be, how are they going to be audited? Because from our findings, we have found out that it seems these funds are not audited. We have also come across a situation, Honorable Minister, where, for example, we allocated funds, for example, to OPM through this committee to do an activity, but we have ended up seeing that that activity is being done by what? By Red Cross. But OPM is not reporting before us that, you know, we are the one who are doing this. But they went ahead to give funds to Red Cross to do the activity. So I think from your experience, you can guide us how we can go about some of these issues. Thank you for listening to me. Thanks a lot, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Smith. Honorable William, thanks for joining us.
I'm sorry I'm late, Madam Chair.
It's understandable. We normally keep time. So, Honorable Minister, from our side, we are done. We have received responses or guidance on the issues raised.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and honorable members. Thank you for your questions and clarifications. Some of the questions are related. The money that the Red Cross gets from government is okay, and I see in the bill that proposal is also there for government to appropriate some money to Red Cross, because Red Cross, for obvious reasons, complements government work. And as you may know, government also sometimes gives some subventions and some financial contribution even to NGOs. You know, there are some NGO hospitals which get funding from government because they really do a good job, and that we all support. And I think therefore the extension of financial support by government to Red Cross is in that spirit. But to answer the question clearly, that once the Red Cross or anybody gets government funds, it is a requirement of the law that these government funds must be accounted for and therefore must be audited. So that's not, there are other financial laws to which Red Cross would be required to account for them. And therefore, the Auditor General would have to audit because these are government funds. The question you asked, Madam Chair, on shall or may, I think the Chief of Legal Services will answer it later. Coordination of Red Cross work and support in government. You correctly observed that indeed Red Cross works with different government departments, education, health, defense, and others. But as you know, Honorable Chair, we have a constitutional provision which mandates the Office of the Prime Minister to coordinate all government ministries and all government activities. So once there is an aspect that cuts across government ministries, the Office of the Prime Minister must come in by law. And therefore our recommendation would be, if it's not already taking place, the Office of the Prime Minister must closely monitor and coordinate the activities of the Red Cross wherever it is within government. I think that there is no other government department that can do it other than the Office of the Prime Minister. Yes, we support Red Cross in areas of security. Yes, we support them because they are already doing a job for Uganda. Because really, if they are going, for example, to help us with Ebola, like they have done, they did the other day in Kasese, a very good job helping us to fight Ebola. But as you know, the border area between Kasese and Congo has problems of insecurity. So UPDF had to be there to protect the Red Cross and other medical workers. So the contribution they make is already being done because they are already treating our people. They are already helping our people. And for us to reciprocate, we must make sure that security is guaranteed. Otherwise, they cannot do any job. So yes, we can ask them to do something for us, but in the field, they already they are already doing a good job. The only thing UPDF does is to make sure they do their work without any disturbance, in a peaceful environment. They execute their mandate without any problem. Do we have an MOU? Maybe the Chief of Legal Services will answer that also. You note it down. Then the issue of tax exemption being abused, maybe the committee will have time to discuss this with Finance, Minister of Finance, and you get professional advice from them. Because declaring personal goods as goods of Red Cross really is a problem of integrity. It's an act of abuse of office. This has not only been done by Red Cross, it has sometimes been done by diplomats who enjoy duty-free status. And so it's a bigger problem, which I think the Minister of Finance, which is in charge of tax issues, must address properly. Maybe I stop there for now and ask my chiefs to make additional comments.
Madam Chairperson, I will talk something, just supplement Honorable Minister's submission. Uganda Red Cross law is auxiliary to government efforts and complementary. But in where we have worked with them, for example, in all epidemics where we have participated, UPDF has participated on the task forces, both at the national and the district level. Red Cross is represented, but there's always a lead agency, like in epidemics, the Ministry of Health, which oversees whoever is coming in, whether it is what? Minister of Health, like if it is epidemics, Minister of Health is the lead agency.
Okay.
Yes, but Red Cross comes in, UPDF comes in, ICRC comes in, UNICEF comes in, WHO comes in. All those are coordinated by Minister of Health. Each one is given tasks so that there is no duplication of effort.
Sorry for interjection. I think that is a very interesting submission. That word is being used in the act because they are saying they want to be the leading agency, and we have been telling them that we have our leading agencies in the various ministries.
Yeah.
So let's take note about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's why I have participated, because I find the Minister of Health taking the lead. Then others come in, support. Even these international ones, like WHO, come in, but they cannot take the lead. Even UNICEF cannot take the lead. Even Red Cross, even ICRC cannot take the lead. Even we UPDF, we go in, but we don't take the lead. We are subordinate to the Minister of Health. For us,
I have been triggered by what you have just said. Listen to also what you said, like what I did mention at the beginning. I said, Office of the Prime Minister does the general coordination, which you also emphasized on. And he's also talking about Red Cross coming in to support the leading agencies, which are
Yes.
our ministries.
Yes.
We are speaking the same language. But I request to be guided properly. For example, when we take office of the Prime Minister, you know there are many agencies there. Special programs are there. We have now this Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, which is also there. So if we say that office of the Prime Minister should coordinate and supervise with the supervision role over Uganda Red Cross Society. Since office of the Prime Minister, let me say Prime Minister himself or herself, let's take it as a person, does work through the various agencies. So how will this Prime Minister come to supervise? Will it be through this Ministry of Disaster? Will it be through these other agencies which are under Office of the Prime Minister? We have these special regions, for example, Northern Uganda is there, Bunyoro is there, and others. We need to understand it clearly with what he has explained. If we say that this responsibility of the supervision falls under Office of the Prime Minister, Office of the Prime Minister is broad-based. Who is that person per now? Yes? Yeah.
Let me just say, I think I understood you very, very clearly. You're trying to say, for example, if the Red Cross goes into OPM, it must have a mandatory intervention. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe I could clarify it.
Just a minute. When you mentioned about the organizations, UNICEF and so forth, they also get donations from donors for a particular intervention. If they're looking at mortality rates, that is where they'll be focusing. But Ministry of Health in the country does the leading, the oversight role to make sure that whatever they're doing, even if they're in Uganda, Ministry of Health should be the overall. But they are also down there. So the Red Cross cannot just come in, for example, if they come out now and they say they want also to be like an agency under the Office of the Prime Minister, the question will be to all of us, what is that mandate? Apart from disaster, if it's through health, so many organizations have these interventions. You mentioned about WHO, you mentioned about UNICEF, you mentioned about, there are so many of them. We can see what is happening right now with the epidemic. And then when you look about disaster, the Office of the Prime Minister is there, but they come in to give support. For example, where there is disaster, the kind of support they give is not like they bring their resources to that disaster, but they give more of manpower. They give more of manpower, I should say. Like, for example, if there's a flood in a particular place, they bring more of manpower. But also they get donations or money from the government of Uganda, which they come to implement like in Kasese. But they, according to them, they want to be like, for example, when they go to Kasese, we also see them like Red Cross is there, Ministry of Disaster is there, OPM is there, but what are we doing? It is the same thing. And it is going to bring a kind of a conflicting role and monopoly, because I'll be bringing food, as for example, I'm Red Cross, the chair is the OPM. She's also bringing relief. I'm also bringing relief and non-food items. It will not really, I think you've made it very, very clear.
Maybe, Chairperson, I can clarify that on the issue of, let's say, take an epidemic in floods. When you take floods, it has a lot of implications. There is health implications. There is an upsurge in malaria, maternal mortality. That one comes in. Then there is, for example, displaced people. Those are not under Ministry of Health. Ministry of Disaster takes over. Then there are, for example, issues of nutrition. People have lost their food and all that. Who brings in the food? That's another ministry. That's how the Ministry of the OPM comes in to coordinate all these ministries. But each one has its line mandate.
Yes, I think at that point we all agree, and we are narrowing to a binding recommendation. Are we going to say that the supervision and monitoring be left to the office of the Prime Minister without any attachment to any ministry? Because, Honourable Minister, you're a very senior person in this country. We respect you, and we are doing more interrogation because we need that brain. We want to present a good report. So we are asking, is it going to be comprehensive enough if we left it that Office of the Prime Minister will be able to oversee? Because government has to come in. As you rightly said, we are going to give money, but government money is just, doesn't go that way. People follow it up, government follow it up. So will it be comprehensive enough to say OPM is going to supervise? Because in the bill, they have made a reflection to Ministry of Disaster. Yes.
I think to narrow it to Minister of Disaster is wrong in my view. Fortunately, I worked as a minister in the office of the Prime Minister. I was in charge of general duties, and my main role was to coordinate and monitor government programs.
Okay.
That was my schedule of work.
What was the position?
Minister of General Duties.
Okay.
There is a Minister of General Duties in the office of the Prime Minister.
Now that is the Mary,
That
our
is
sister.
Karolo now. So for me that was 2006, 2009. So I know how the office of the Prime Minister works. By coordinating government, the Prime Minister's office does not take away the roles of ministries.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Its
Doesn't.
coordination is automatic.
Yeah.
And at any one time, if the office of the Prime Minister detects a weakness or a shortcoming in any ministry or a gap or even conflict, by the way, these ministries sometimes conflict, real conflict.
It's true.
You find a minister pulling saying this is our job, another one pulling this is our job. It could be a security matter.
Yeah. That's it.
And the Minister of Defense says, no, this is our work. Then the police says, no, this is police work. It could be, for example, locusts, yes. Locusts, you have brought a good example. Locusts, who should handle locusts now? You'll find agriculture saying, no, this is our work.
OPM.
You find the disaster preparedness saying, no, this is our job. So that is where OPM comes in. To say, please, can we sit down?
Okay.
You ministers come and sit down, and I will guide you. And the Prime Minister normally guides the ministries. It can decide, no, this and this minister should do this job. Or it can say, both of you have failed, I'm taking over this role. The office of the Prime Minister can take over even some roles of any ministry. If it detects there are some weaknesses, it goes to a higher level now, and then it reports to the President. There are even some cases where if the President realizes that the ministry is not moving, because there are some cases the President can give a task, but the ministry is slow, or the ministry is handcuffed in some ways, then the President can say, no, the minister of this and this has failed to do this job, Prime Minister, take it over.
Okay.
So that it gets the clout and the urgency that it deserves. So when we talk about coordinating the work of Red Cross, we are talking about it in general terms, in routine work.
Yes.
But as the Chief of Medical Services said, Red Cross is involved in many things.
Yeah.
Today it is COVID, tomorrow it might be floods, the other day it might be Ebola, like it happened. So there they have to work with health. And health now takes lead on behalf of government. This is not to say Office of the Prime Minister is not supervising.
Yeah.
Because you can see even in COVID, although Minister of Health is the lead really, all these guidelines we follow are generated by the Minister of Health. But the person who is visible to be coordinating the task force is the Prime Minister. Why is the Prime Minister? Because now the Minister of Health is not going to command the Minister of Defense to deploy troops for enforcement where they are required. He can't command me because we are equal. The Minister of Health is not going to command the Minister of Internal Affairs that give me so many policemen. The Minister of Health is not going to command Finance, look for money quickly. So you have to get a coordinating office which is given power, really not just to coordinate, but sometimes to command these ministries. I direct, do this. Because for us in the executive, we work on directives. We don't work on persuasion or discussion. Once the president calls me and says, Mr. Mwesige, I want you to do A, B, C, that's a directive. I don't argue with him. Once the Prime Minister calls me and says, leave the meeting you are in now and come to my office, I pack my books and go. That is the discipline in the executive arm of government. And that is why then you have the Prime Minister involved in all this coordination. So that if an event, if it is armed conflict, Red Cross can go to defense and work with us. But then later they must report back to base, to Prime Minister's office. We worked with the defense, we spent so much money, we did this, we had these problems, we finished the job, they go back to base. So for purposes real of coordination and control and command, they should be monitored by OPM.
Thank you.
Then as the issues arise, depending on the issues and events that arise like disaster, armed conflict, floods, they work with ministries. After all ministries are under OPM.
Fine. I think members, it's a very good response. We are narrowing to where we can house this Uganda Red Cross Society. Let's take note about that submission. And my vice raised an issue of the duplication. Yes, I was saying that since many of these responses come on board from many agencies, are they not duplicating? It goes back to what I raised at the beginning. Can we enhance planning with this type of operation?
I agree with you. We need to harmonize. And that is why, again, OPM becomes relevant. OPM becomes relevant because it is the only one which has the eyes to see the whole government. Because for us, defense will be looking at our docket. How can Red Cross contribute to us? Sometimes in these ministries, actors don't know what is happening in other sectors, by the way. But OPM has that mechanism to see widely. In health, we need your intervention, Red Cross. In education, intervene in this area. In defense, intervene in this area. And maybe in health, there is already UNICEF doing that job, don't do it.
Okay.
You see? Otherwise, there is a tendency by ministries, whoever comes in, they will come. UNICEF, bring your money. Red Cross, bring your money. NGOs, bring your money. But there must be somebody that say, no, there is already another actor helping a certain area, so go this side.
So,
and I think that is okay.
Secretariat, let's take this as a family meeting now. We are learning from each other. If you have any issue in the course of capturing that, let's know. You can ask it. I will allow you. Because we had issues on our minister on how we can harmonize planning, supervision, monitoring, with a lot of avoidance of causing conflict.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Yes, my staff has one issue.
I just want
fish might not go. For example, if UNICEF has got money from its development partners to do a certain thing, maybe to address certain issues, so you will not be able to tell them on what to do and where to go to do it. So they will still go to Kasese, Red Cross will go to Kasese,
Yes.
disaster will go to Kasese, and you will have no control. They will only have control over the organization that they control, maybe they are public. I just want to understand that one. Thank you.
It
Thank you.
is
Yes.
not like that. The lead agency will tell you that already we have resources for this. For example, I attended meetings of Ebola response. When the Red Cross says, UNICEF says, for us we are mobilizing scanners. And we say already we have got a scanner from WHO from Ponwe. Then shift yours to the airport. And they will oblige. Yes.
And maybe to inform the legal counsel there, it's not that whatever comes from outside, government must take. I'll give you the example of the sector, this sector I'm heading. There are donations which come. Because for us, we are not a donor receiving ministry. If you look at our budget, you will not find donor money. For obvious reasons. Because otherwise, if we keep getting donor money, it will compromise our mandate. So there is somebody, for example, who came and offered and said, no, I want to build houses for your army. And I have my own money. We said, no, we don't need your money. And that was the end of the story. So it's not that ministries, but as he said, we can say, here we are well catered for. Take your money elsewhere.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable William.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to inform the minister that Red Cross is doing very good work. Sometimes the community seems to appreciate it more than what government is doing. We are in the process of finalizing the issue in this bill. How can you help us to put good sentences in the bill that will protect the image of government? Because sometimes some service providers become political. Because they have been doing good work, they go direct to the ministry, the visibility of government is not there, then they become political. It has happened in many parts of Uganda, we know, and we cannot repeat it, to talk about it again and again. But this is an opportunity. We want your wisdom in this area, Mr. Minister.
I would like to thank my brother Honorable Raj for that comment. It is a very serious issue rising. Sometimes because we are a poor country, we compromise our sovereignty and end up with laws and even programs which undermine us. And so when he talks like that, I feel extremely touched. And sometimes technical people also have not been sometimes helpful in this area. In some cases, they actually work for those people, and they end up undermining their own country. I don't want to go in so much examples, but we have seen situations where somebody writes a report, maybe to the UN, which portrays Uganda as negatively, and this is a Ugandan writing. Yet we have mechanisms of resolving our own problems. So I think that question would you have already started on it. You as a committee, Honorable Nokrach, you have already started on it by emphasizing coordination and making sure that this Red Cross is not an empire of its own. It is good and very useful, but it's not an empire of its own. You will recall, and I think we were here together, when we were towards the end of the Kony War in the north, NGOs had become more visible than even government. You'd go in the north and find signposts, NUSAF funded by so and so. People were thanking World Bank, yet we were borrowing money from World Bank. But our local people there could only see World Bank visible, UNICEF visible, NGOs visible. They wouldn't see government. So the point he's making is very, very important. So, but I think the way this committee is moving, in my view, is in the right direction. Because you are saying, where should this Red Cross report? Who should coordinate its activities? If you can expound that and emphasize it more. And then I think when Attorney General comes, and I hope you'll call him, I think he's the best person to do that, to make sure the drafting really comes out more strongly and makes our government in charge. Red Cross can help, it's just complementary, but it's not the government.
I just wanted to say something about what you raised. Red Cross has for sure got a good image out there with what they do in the communities. I want to give you an example. Last year, I got the whole village had got banks of wildfire. The office of the Prime Minister offered us some food items, that is rice. But the rice, by the time they arrive to the districts, it starts getting thinning. You know what I'm saying? The banks get some holes. By the time they arrive the sub-county, and by the time it arrives, the beneficiary is not what is intended. Now, when Red Cross came, they also came with some food items, including non-food items. They went and did some implementation directly to the village. And people were very, very overwhelmed. And they were like, why can't government be working like this?
Yes, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, there is of course, we're looking at this bill, like if they can be incorporated, taken under some ministry, like the example office of the Prime Minister, and then they are given the mandate to do some of these things, because it's very embarrassing. It's very embarrassing. Either the parish chief wants to benefit, the sub-county chief wants to benefit.
You have hit the point.
The councillor wants to benefit.
That is the problem.
Yeah. For you, you've gone there as a member of parliament, you've delivered, you say, okay, I've robbed it, let me go. And then when it goes, these people, my people had to bag rice in their granaries for the first time. They could not believe it. But the food that came from OPM was more than what Red Cross had brought. But they could not even have in this veg oil, you know that USA oil, veg oil, to be kept, even they could not even take it in the house. They made it just 1 meal until it was finished. So that's why you see, I think there's a lot of some compliments that Red Cross is getting, and it's making them feel that I think if they are brought in on board at some level, the country, things will be moving on well, especially those intended beneficiaries who normally get this kind of disaster. Thank you for reminding me that story.
Thank you. I think, okay.
Madam Chair, I will make some comments on behalf of my minister. In paragraph 5, he uses the word may, and it is clear that members of the medical profession, the defense forces may, when necessary, use the Red Cross symbol for purposes of identification and protection. Madam Chair, you are aware that in the recent past, we are grappling with the problem of misuse of the emblem in the country. And it is a global problem of misuse of the emblem. So, members of the UPDF being a disciplined force would not tolerate a situation whereby you say, I'm a member of the medical profession and I'm putting on the identification or protection symbol of the Red Cross if you are not doing what Clause 13 provides in the bill. If you are not on duty, for example. So the presentation was not intended to dilute the language in Clause 13 of the bill.
We are concentrating
on shall.
On staff who shall be on duty.
Yes.
Not the entire staff of UPDF.
Yes. Yeah.
If all of us are on duty for for such an emergency, is it a must that you should all put on the, yes?
For purposes of identification, in peacetime it is okay. In terms of armed conflict, it is both for identification and protection. And
So it becomes sharp.
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, I want them to clarify this.
Okay.
I'll put it in a very nice way. Supposing it's in a war situation, what confidence would the other opponent have on Red Cross? See, calling you now an opponent, putting on Red Cross emblem. What confidence will they have in the Red Cross if they discover it?
Chair, if I may, you know, the 1949 Geneva Conventions and the additional protocols are clear on the role of the medical personnel. And so, since you talked about, the bill also mentioned the religious personnel. These are never combatants in international armed conflicts. They play a humanitarian role. They treat their own and the enemy according to the need. You treat the enemy if he or she is more injured than your own. And so, Madam Chair, that's the basis why of the medical personnel being allowed to use the identification and protect the symbol of the Red Cross.
Yes, Madam Chair. Maybe I would add on something.
Yes, let him add. You can use the mic.
Yeah. Of course, this one has been abused by non-state actors. But if it is military, national militaries, you have to tell that. But of course, non-state actors, like COI, like ADF, they don't know that. Because they have not studied humanitarian law, and they don't know these conventions. Because I cannot see enemy soldier injured, and I went to treat him. And we started even during the Bush War for us, we were doing it.
Yes, Madam Chair, I want to agree with the Chief Legal on the wording of the word "shall" as embedded in the bill, for reasons that when the UPDF is intervening, when it's using those logos, it comes in as an intervention. We all know that tough times needs tough measures. So automatically it becomes a must. A shall use those emblems. I submit.
For medical reasons.
Yes.
Not fights.
No, Madam Chair, it is an intervention for medical reasons.
Yes.
For humanitarian reasons. Yes.
Draft it for me when those are the things we're going to face. Seeing the neutrality where it becomes difficult for a lay person like me who did not go for those trainings of yours or remain in this field. So, members,
Madam Chair, if you allow me
yes.
the other questions.
Okay.
There was an issue of training, and also ties in with the previous about the use of the emblem. The UPDF has got the mandate to recruit and train the members of the forces. Part of the training program of the curriculum
Is on humanitarian law and human rights. I have been in legal services, I think almost all my time since 1980. I joined legal service in 1988. And we have had MOUs, first with the International Committee of the Red Cross, and Uganda Red Cross also comes on board. Then later on we formed the National Humanitarian Law Committee, which is hosted in the office of the Prime Minister. I happen to be the vice chair of the committee. It's not so much vibrant, though. Now we have, through those partnerships, developed appropriate curricula for training members of the UPDF right from the recruit training schools through to the highest institution we have, that is the Senior Command Staff College at Chimaka. IHL is a component at all levels. We also have specialized training places, like the Legal Training Center in Jinja, which I supervise on behalf of the ministry, and the Camp Single. That's what I'm coming to. We train, the Ministry of Defense facilitates the training. We get resource persons, like the International Committee of the Red Cross has materials, films, books, online and hard copies. So they come on board to facilitate. But the institutions are for the UPDF. The MOU is for them to bring expertise. And over time, we have gained expertise in the UPDF. If you move around the units, you'll find people donning on something like this, Madam Chair. We have UPDF, or Ministry of Defense, IHL instructors. So we do the instruction, and now we concentrate on training commanders to understand aspects like the emblem itself. If you see the question that was read by the honorable member, a person putting on military uniform on the opposite side, but having a protective or indicative emblem, who is that person? UPDF personnel know who is the enemy, who is a protected person during the armed conflict. And this has helped us, even the image we have in international missions. We also, of course, in terms of IHL training, we partner with other institutions in other countries where we send our people to train, specifically on operational military law, like the International Institute of Humanitarian Law in San Remo, Italy, which has been helping us train since 1986. We also train our commanders and lawyers at the the International Institute of Defense, the International Institute of DIRS, Defense Institute of International Law in the US and other institutions. So basically, we don't get funding directly, but it is our mandate to train, and we get facilitation and resource materials and resource persons from those other partners.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chair. Defense, who was once in the Ministry of the Prime Minister's office. I think according to me, do you think the best place that should house Uganda Red Cross should be still under the Ministry of
That was
under the Prime
responded
Minister's?
to.
Yes.
That question was raised.
So I think from what he has told us, he has really showed us that all other ministries are equal, but the office of the Prime Minister is more equal
Than others.
than others.
Animal farm.
And he really has the capacity to question these people
He's the
here
head
and there.
prefect.
So I want to thank you for that explanation. It has really
Thank you, Honorable.
given direction.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you. Any other? Yes?
This is out of record, just not for you, Council. I'm seeing you're paying attention. I just want to thank Director. Your facilities are doing a lot in our region, in Karamoja. The Moroto Hospital, the Army Barracks in Nakapiriprit. Most of the time we run out of supplies in these other government facilities. The only place to go is your facility.
Oh, very good.
And in future, let's plan and see how we can really support these facilities, because you look at the one of Moroto, and the one of Nakapipit, they are helping so much people of the Kenyan side. Because on the other side of Kenya, their infrastructure is totally very low on the Western Pokot side. So most of them come to your facilities, and they are really doing a very great job for them right now, even in this COVID-19. And of course, the general team. So I didn't want to miss the opportunity to say thank you to your team
Yeah.
there.
Thank you very much, and I think you support us because we get stuck out because of the people.
Yes.
Stuck out 2 weeks, our bags are finished.
Those are the people. That means
The service.
and they get the service is very good because by the time they leave in the other, you go to the other place, you're only given Panadol. But from this side, you're given a cannula, which you're supposed from the other side to buy in the clinic. When you go to a government facility, they tell you first go and buy a cannula. Then you come and they give you a line. But for you people, the cannula is there, everything, the normal saline. So they would rather go to the UPDF. And that's why it's called the People's Army. It's not like those days you would not even go to the barracks.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Whistleblower.
I have one issue for clarity. Sorry, we are taking unnecessary long because we are enjoying the interaction.
We are also enjoying.
Yes. In our bill, we needed some guidance on how now to have the act to be regulated as you have proposed by probably the Ministry for General Duties. But also there is much emphasis about the constitution of the Red Cross. Is the Minister for General Duties then going to have regulations that will guide on these people's constitution, or are we going to do off with their constitution? We request to be guided
The
on
Constitution of Red Cross.
that. Yes, because as per now, they have been using the constitution so much in their operations, because the act, which is one-page act, was not comprehensive and has been taken off by many events. So they have been doing many things regulated by their constitution. Yes, so how are we going to marry the two to have this constitution? Now we are going to say the ministries will have regulations. So what will be the gymnastics there?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Once you have, of course, this bill will eventually become law.
Can we have one meeting to just close this? Yeah.
Of course, this bill will eventually become law. Once Parliament has passed it, it will go to the President for assent, like any bill. And once the President assents to it, it will become law. Now, every law must have a minister, because eventually you, Parliament, have done your job by passing the law. Now the executive will have to implement your law, because you pass the law, we implement. So it will have to have some minister. I think the committee will have to discuss it to operationalize the provisions of the law by regulations. But those regulations must not offend the Constitution, because I think that is really the parent. It's like the Constitution is like a piece of international law. It's like if we are dealing with, if we make a law to operationalize the Sheraton Convention on Human Rights, we cannot deviate from the international principles in the main treaty. So the parent constitution of the International Red Cross must be respected. And I think it's good you have legal counsel here, as even you review this bill, you've got to keep looking at the constitution so that the two are in harmony. And when the minister eventually makes regulations, he or she must also make sure they are consistent. Because we can't amend the constitution, we are not the ones who made it. But we can align our regulations to conform to the constitution.
Thank you.
The issue is, the Red Cross also have their own constitution. How do we marry the two? Because this is an act of parliament now, there must be a regulation. So they also have their constitution. How do they operate?
I think that's what I was talking about.
Yes.
I think that is the international, the constitution is the constitution of the International Red Cross.
Maybe our legal officer give an
You can give us.
just one thing, that their constitution is registered here under the because by its very nature, I think it has been operating like an NGO. So
it's the national society. Each country has its own constitution for its national society.
Yes, but because the law that they had, they were been operating under, it was just quiet. There was nothing to regulate, have on rules, regulations. But now they still want certain things to be provided for in their constitution that is registered in accordance with the laws of Uganda. That is where the challenge is.
My problem, Madam Chair, is I think the legal office has got to do more research and find out if that national chapter, that national constitution, which I call the national chapter, is derived from the international Red Cross Treaty. Then we may have to align it to the international norms. Because if it is, and in some cases, most of them are reproduced verbatim, you'll find that the national chapter reflects the international principles verbatim, the way they are. So if you try to subject them to our national laws, then you get a conflict with the international order. You get conflict with the international order, you'll find yourself out of place as a country. Because I'm sure they have standard principles, international principles, which are followed by Red Cross Kenya, Red Cross Tanzania, Red Cross Belgium, Red Cross UK. Now if we make our own, we may get out of place. And I think that has implications, has serious implications. So let's look at what the international document says, the national constitution, what it says, but we harmonize it to the international one. Yes.
Thank you.
What honorable minister is saying is that we this because the Red Cross Society, I think it was ratified here following the Geneva Convention. I think it was 1950 something, 1964. So since 1964, we've been dealing with the same act. So that's why now the bill is seeking for amendment or review otherwise.
Okay.
Yes.
But I think his advice is so prudent so that we make comparative analysis.
Yes.
You never know what has been operational may have a deviation from what is international. And that we must correct it at this point. Yes. So I think I agree with the proposal. Clerk ensure that we have copies of the two different documents, apart from what we requested about their activities. Because we need to have that list of the activities that they do, so that we can be able to proceed as we relate with other agencies. Honourable Minister, we are so grateful for you and your team.
Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Yes, we normally encourage that our meetings are also like learning sessions.
Yes, sure.
Because learning continues, and we are not lawyers. We have different backgrounds as members of parliament. But when we come here, we do a lot of things, and we must perform.
Yeah.
So we thank you so much for the presentation, the interaction, and we are going to continue to interact with you until we are done with this process.
Please.
Because we want to make a process that will be comprehensive, but not also causing conflict, so that it will last longer.
Yeah.
So with this, we thank you so much. I request that Honorable Smeo, CEO of our team, we are so grateful. Good day.
Thank you, Honorable.
There's an army officer here.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Now we need the police officer.